you doing, everybody? And welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. It's Thursday. It's a great Thursday, an interesting Thursday. A lot of news coming out of the Packers yesterday, so we're going to get into that today. But first, I got to talk to the two guys with me here. Rogan's back today. Rogan, how we doing after your day off? Don't yell right away. We'll get into it. Just tell me how you're doing personally.
You know, Trey, it was a great day until about 15 minutes ago. And I don't know if it's this show or if it's the Packers, but ever since I've came on the show, I feel like I've just been frustrated almost every episode. And I kind of had a string. I had a couple nice strings of good episodes going there where I was happy, but that's done today, Trey. Move on to us.
Rogan's unleashed. Rogan is unleashed.
He's emotional. He comes back from break, and it's like he never left. He's still hot and heavy right now.
It's the Bachelor show getting to him. It's the Bachelor show getting to him. He's getting so emotionally attached to people now.
The Bachelor's not doing good either. So, yeah, it's just adding up.
He might have listened to you yesterday when it was the Hate on Rogan Day on the podcast yesterday with you, Austin. He must have tuned in and listened to you talk. So, Austin, how are you doing on this Thursday?
I'm doing good, Trage. Week hasn't been terribly busy, so that's good. And we're heading downhill, so that's always great. And I'm ready to get into it today about these interesting topics, specifically one Jeff Hafley topic, but we'll get into that.
Rogan, we figured it out yesterday. So imagine the mountain as a camel's back, okay? Now, hump day is the middle of the week. So Austin always says that at the middle of the week, we're on the top of the mountain. Imagine it like a camel's back. That's what I did. It didn't make sense when I took it as a mountain. But when I took it as a camel's back, because you think about it, by the time you make it to the back end of that camel and you're smelling the stuff on that back end, that's like Sunday night leading into Monday. Then you go back to the front end of the camel. Then it's a slow hill back to the top of the hump. See, I got it.
That actually makes perfect sense. That I don't think Austin meant to mean it like that, but now
what? I'm the one who started this, and now you're discrediting me.
It took me I had to. You imagine knocking some of the brain cells out of your own head, just shutting some of your brain down for about 5 minutes. That's what I did. Austin's putting on his glasses now, so he looks.
You know what they say, Trade. You can skin. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and that's what we're looking at here. All right, I skin a cat one way, you guys skin a cat another way, but either way, we're getting over a hump here, and we're on the downhill side. So let's just all be happy today, huh?
No, I think you were skinning a gopher, and we were skinning a cat. I think.
Hey, I'd skin a gopher.
We'd all skin a gopher. Nobody likes the gophers. I mean, the golden gophers. What kind of mascot is that? That's all.
They're more like a yellow gopher.
Do you know what an actual badger would do to a gopher? I'm just throwing that out there.
I have never. I can't say I've imagined it in my own head, but I can only imagine what would happen. I mean, that could be our next mascot fight of the week. I mean,
I've never seen a badger in real life, to be honest with you. So probably not a bad thing either. I feel like. My luck, I'd see a badger and just start attacking my face. So mainly because I'm ginger. I feel like animals love to attack me, and they see my hair and they're like, "This kid's a ginger." I'm gonna attack him.
Oh, it's not just animals. It's not just animals.
Oh.
Everybody loves the ginger hair, baby.
You gosh dang right they do.
So have you guys did you know that the Packers used to have a mascot? Speaking of mascots, did you know that they used to have a mascot?
The Acme Packers, baby.
Way back in the day, it was a short, chubby looking mascot the Packers had. And he had a beard and everything like that. And he was Green Bay's mascot. And actually, the suit was so heavy that the first game he was out there, he actually couldn't make it through the second quarter. He had to leave the game because the suit was so heavy. He was getting exhausted from standing there in it. And then afterwards, they asked him about the mascot suit. And he said it resembled a lot of Packer fans, short, chubby, and big feet. So shortly after that, that upset a lot of Packer fans. So shortly after that, the Packers lost their mascot, and we went to the Cheesehead. But I did not know that the Packers used to actually have a mascot. I thought that was real interesting.
I don't know why we couldn't just throw a block of cheese out there for our mascot from the beginning.
Just a real cheese, though. After the game, some people get to enjoy it.
Well, some teams, they have like real life animals as their mascots. Like the Ravens have a raven that fly around. The Georgia Bulldogs, they got a bulldog, and even LSU has a freaking tiger on their campus. But what do we
need
got?
a cow. We need a
We
live
need.
cow.
There we go. It'd be like
Holstein cow.
Texas. It'd be like a Longhorn. They run a cow. They run the Longhorn out there. We just run a cow out there.
A plain Jane Holstein cow.
Got to be Holstein.
It's got to be a Holstein. That's
Can't be New Jersey.
Jersey. No Jersey. No Jersey. No red and white Holstein. We're talking a black and white Holstein cow. Nothing more Wisconsin than that right there. That's what you see out there in these farms grazing away.
And a block of cheese.
Cow. And a block of cheese. Was it you and me that talked about cheese heads should be edible? Was it you and me that talked about that? Or was it me and Rogan?
I think I brought up something about a cheese head for a fact of the day, I think, or maybe that was a trivia. That was, I think, trivia game. That was trivia game. I brought up a cheese head, and I think we did.
Oh yeah, it was the cost of the original cheese head. I remember that.
I forgot the cost, but
I forgot what it was now too. But then we talked about making it edible. I really do think if it was edible, that'd be something. You know, you could just
that's if it rained.
Take a
then you
chunk
got just
out
wet,
of your
soggy
hand.
cheese. Or if it was super hot out, then the cheese just dripping down your neck.
Then you get a chip out and you eat it like.
But nachos, I think we brought up nachos.
Yep.
Then,
eat it like nachos then.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. That would work. So we got a lot to get. It would be a great invention. We have a lot to get into today. We got the Brewers. We got the Packers. We have the Badgers. Everything in between today. So we're going to get into Brewer talk right away. We talked about it yesterday. Yesterday I put a post out for people to be able to reply on Facebook. And I asked a simple question. I said, with the Brewers' current pitching staff, what you're expected going in, you're going to have Burns, Peralta, Ashby, Miley, Joe Ross, and Colin Ray. That's your 6 guys, your projected starting rotation. That's minus off the rookies that could potentially be in there, like Jacob Mizorowski, Robert Gasser, and Carlos F. Rodriguez. So some of those guys not on that list. I asked the question, I said, I think adding some depth, maybe a 3rd or 4th starter, wouldn't hurt the Brewer team right now. Ask people what they thought. I wanted to hear some of the answers that I would get out there from people. So, a lot of people talking about Trevor Bauer. Potentially bringing in a guy like Trevor Bauer. Now, I'm not sure. I thought he served his full-on suspension, and that's all done and over with. I'm pretty darn sure he did. He lost out a lot of money from, I believe, the Dodgers at the time there. From there, he settled his civil suits out there. He paid a lot of money for them, settled them there. I just wanted to know, okay, so to me, I don't know if he'd be a headache in the locker room. I think the out-of-stadium noise, the fan noise, might be worse than the clubhouse. I think you can get along with him in a clubhouse. I don't know about the fans, though. I don't know how fans would react to Trevor Bauer. I think it would be worth a shot. I think he's definitely still a good pitcher. And you saw him with the Dodgers there, and even before that with the Reds, a pretty darn good pitcher at that with those years there. I mean, Trevor Bauer definitely would be an interesting guy coming to Milwaukee. So, Rogan, Trevor Bauer, definitely an interesting topic. What do you think about the Brewers potentially looking at a guy like Trevor Bauer, bringing him in?
Yeah, Trevor Bauer would be interesting. He was a really solid pitcher back, what was that, 3-4 years ago now? That's the last time he played?
Yeah. Yep.
So it is hard to tell, like, if he's still got it. Obviously, being out of the league for 3 to 4 years, you never know what happens there. But he has been pitching overseas, and like you said, kind of got all that, whatever was really going on there, situated, figured out, and served that suspension. So he would be, ready to come back now. But I think I could see the Brewers having interest in him. I don't know if he would have interest in the Brewers. He's a longtime Los Angeles Dodgers guy. Like, for him to come to Milwaukee, that kind of feels like one of those – I just don't know if he would want to come to Milwaukee. That's where I'm kind of leaning towards there. I could see the Brewers maybe having potential interest, but I just don't know. But I will say this, he does want to play in the MLB really bad again. And if Milwaukee was like one of the only teams to give him an opportunity, like, it would be very dumb of him not to take the opportunity. But we'll have to see, because Milwaukee just doesn't strike me as a place that Bauer would like to go there.
I could see him signing with Milwaukee, kind of like Rhys Hoskins and Yasmani Grandal did. Get their feet wet again, get, back to form, and then go out and get a big contract. The Brewers sign him for something small, maybe a 1-2 year deal, whatever it is. And then after he comes back for a year, say he does fantastic, now he can go out and get his big contract. I could see something like that happening. I can see, him going to a smaller market team just simply because the big market teams aren't going to pay him a boatload of money. They don't want the headache. So you get him to a small market team, say like the Brewers, and the Brewers make him come. He comes back. He's fantastic. He has like a 2 ERA. He's up for a Cy Young award. End of the season, he can walk away and he can go to, say, Yankees, Dodgers, whoever wants him, and they're going to pay top dollar to get a guy like Trevor Bauer coming off of that. So, Austin, anything to add there? You think Trevor Bauer would be a good ad for the Brewers?
Yeah, I mean, he's an experienced pitcher. He hasn't stopped. I mean, he had a little bit when he didn't play during the suspension, but now he's playing in Japan, and Japan is really good at baseball now. So he hasn't really lost that experience in that. I looked up his contract or his salary in Japan, and it's only worth about $3 million. And I'm pretty sure that's something the Brewers can at least pay that, if not probably more, especially for someone like Trevor Bauer to add to our rotation there. I think he'd be really good to replace Brandon Woodruff for now. And when he was pitching for Cincinnati, he was the Cy Young Award winner there. So still a really good pitcher, and I think he has still quite a few years left in him. And I think that'd be a great addition to our starting role. I can't really think of any pitchers right now, like any really, really good pitchers that are in a free agency market right now that the Brewers could honestly go out and get, because if they're really good like that, then they're probably not going to come to the Brewers because we don't really have the money that we'd have to pay them. But with Trevor Bauer only getting paid $3 million in Japan, and with him wanting to come back to the MLB, I think there's a real shot that the Brewers could possibly pick him up. But I don't know. Like you guys were saying, I'm pretty sure his suspension is gone now. It was reduced to 194 games, and that was probably a year and a half ago, 2 years. So quite a while ago. And so I think it'd be a great pickup, but I feel like something like that we haven't done since Christian Yelich, Lorenzo Cain. So maybe this is the year that Brewers, we picked up Rhys Hoskins, we picked up William Contreras there, and now we got some players. If we picked up Trevor Bauer, that'd be a huge addition to our pitching staff.
Yeah, Trevor Bauer would be definitely a great ad. Other notable mentions that people were naming out there, I saw some people talking about Alex Wood and Michael Lorenzen. We talked about those guys potentially being back of the rotation kind of guys. They're going to be looking probably for a little bit less there in the free agent market, probably around like $9 million each. So you're going to be a little bit less there with those two guys. Still some upside to them, and the possibility that you're going to have them fill in that back end of that rotation. Other than that, looking at some of the rookie potential pitchers coming out of camp there, Carlos F. Rodriguez, I was just looking at some of his stats here. Coming out of Double-A last year, he was sitting at a 2.77 ERA, 25 starts, 123 innings pitched. He had, I'm looking at strikeouts here, 152 strikeouts last season there at Double-A. So some impressive pitching there out of Carlos Rodriguez. He only pitched he started one game in AAA Nashville as of last season. So I don't expect him to break camp with the team. I think he could be a potential guy to come up later in the season, but I don't think he's going to break camp other than that. Looking at some other guys there, Robert Gasser. Looking at Gasser in this last season, he was 9-1 with a 3.79 ERA, 166 strikeouts, and 135 innings pitched there at AAA Nashville. That's some impressive stats. Robert Gasser, a lefty down there. He has a little bit of velocity, a little bit of zip to his fastball there, and he does have some good off-speed stuff. So I could see Robert Gasser potentially being up with the crew at some point. And the flamethrower himself down there in the minors, Jacob Mizorowski. This guy, he's touching triple digits with his fastball. He can be a little shaky. As we know with flamethrowers, they can be a little shaky there with their control. But last season at Single A, he was sitting at a 3.04 ERA and 9 starts. single A, high single A. He was sitting at a 1.90 ERA in 6 starts. And then as of the double A season, he had 5 starts and he was sitting at a 5.57 ERA there. 16 walks up there at the double A level in 5 starts. So definitely the control is going to be a big thing for Mizorowski. I could see him up with the Crew at some point. I don't think it's going to be early next year. I think he has some things he's got to tweak yet down there, especially at the AAA level. He's down at AA, hasn't made it up to the AAA level. So I think definitely going to have some stuff to work out there at the AAA level before the Brewers consider him up there. That's why I'm thinking the Brewers need to add somebody in free agency here or through a trade, whatever it is, to bolster that rotation, because these rookies I think will be up at some point for the Brewers. I do. But I just don't see them as breaking camp on the major league roster. And I think the Brewers could use a guy right off the bat there to kind of solidify that 3rd, 4th spot in that rotation. So, Rogan, anything to add there, starting pitching-wise for the Brewers? With these rookies, do you see any of them breaking camp right away? Do you think they're going to be down a little bit longer than what most people want to see?
Yeah, like you were saying, the one guy I'm kind of looking at, and I don't know, definitely not maybe like beginning of the year, but possibly, depending on how he does, maybe end of the year guy, possibly a playoff roster if he starts playing really well. But that Jacob Mizorowski kid, I've watched some highlights of that guy, and like you were saying, obviously he's still young and he needs to work on like consistency. But that's the only thing this guy has to work on is the consistency part of his game, because his stuff is like elite, and you can tell that even in minors. Like this guy, like you said, can hit triple digits, and not only hits triple digits like early in a game, but sustains it throughout the entirety of a game. You see a lot of these guys that can hit triple digits beginning of the game, but end of the game comes around and they're pretty tired. But this guy kind of reminds me of, with his velocity, at least like a DeGrom. Like DeGrom can hit 100 in the 6th inning just as often as he can in the 1st. And then he's got a lot of secondary pitches that are like really good. So
nasty. He is nasty.
Yeah, they're nasty. I've seen some of the batters that have tried to hit this guy, and it's the only thing he struggles with is the consistency. So if he gets kind of hot maybe and gets in a groove, like I could see him quickly moving up and fast.
Yeah, they talked about it was the same thing with Abner Uribe coming up last year for the Brewers. They said he was inconsistent with his fastball. He could touch that triple digits, but his control was off. His control was off. Well, he came up last year and he broke the Brewers roster, and man, he pitched well. He pitched well throughout the year. He did have some control situations at times, but what pitcher doesn't? That's the real thing we got to watch here. So, I mean, I agree. Jacob Mizorowski, definitely a guy to keep your eye on. Austin, anything to add there, starting pitching-wise for the Brewers?
No, I feel you guys talked about it pretty well there. Hopefully, if we're not able to get some support, hopefully, like you guys are saying, the younger guys are able to step up. Again, kind of like how our outfielders needed that last year. Hopefully this year our pitching will hopefully get that younger support there this year. But overall, I think we'll have a pretty good pitching staff. Our pitching staff usually hasn't been the problem for our teams. I feel like the past few years we've had some pretty decent pitching staffs. Just when it comes to push comes to shove there, it's our hitting, it feels like sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see what the Brewers are able to do. But as of now, I think we got to rely a little bit more on the younger guys if we're not able to find someone in free agency.
Completely agree with you there. It's going to be interesting what the Brewers do from now until opening day to solidify this roster and get ready for a deep run again in this 2024 season. So with that, I want to move on here, talk about your hometown Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy, Sue, or Anna to find your dream home, or if you're looking to sell, find them on Facebook at your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty, or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield. Also, looking at another one of our sponsors, Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. Getting to the breaking news, the big news of the day in Wisconsin. Many of us are confused. Rogan is already shaking his head, and I can imagine that window behind him might not stay upright for very long. The Packers have hired their defensive coordinator. Jeff Hafley was hired, the former head coach of the Boston College I think they're an Eagle. I'm pretty darn sure they're an Eagle.
Something like
Boston
that.
College head coach. Yeah, something like that. Something good enough. We don't care. Boston College's head coach, Jeff Hafley, is coming to Green Bay to be the new defensive coordinator. I'm just going to go to Rogan right away just so he can get it off his chest and we can move forward with the day. So, Rogan, what do you think? What do you think of this hiring by the Packers? And I mean, he's going to spell out the words so that way little kids can listen to this and not feel offended. So, Rogan, you have the floor.
Trage, what in the HE double hockey sticks is LaFleur doing? What is this man doing? This man, walk him off the job right now, put him in a car, and you ship him away because this is unacceptable. I got a couple questions for you. I'm going to give you like a quiz, Trage, here. You got a struggling defense. It's been struggling for 5-6 years. Should you bring in an inexperienced guy? Well, I shouldn't say inexperienced guy. Unproven guy? Or maybe try to get a guy that's proven himself? Just yes or no.
I just got to say first, I don't think we've had a good defense since we won the Super Bowl. But back to your question, yes, proven guy.
Okay. I gotta set that precedence right away so then I can get into these. I've been diving in a little bit, seeing how his defenses have fared in the past. Like you said, Boston College coach. He was a co-defense coordinator at Ohio State, helped out with the Browns for a couple of years, helped out with the 49ers for a couple of years. So I went back and I did some digging. Let's go back last year, that Boston College team. I looked up total team defense from college football last year. First page, don't see Boston College. I'm like, well, something's got to be wrong there. I refreshed to the second page. Don't see Boston College there. I'm like, what? Did they get like banned or something? I refreshed that page again. There they are. 82nd defensive team in the country, Boston College. 90th in rush defense. What do the Packers suck at? Rush defense. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to go back and look at his NFL career. 2014-15 with the Browns. 14, they were the 8th ranked defense. 15, 29th. Okay, it's the Browns. I'm going to move on. I'm going to go to the 49ers. They've had a good defense. He coached there from 2016 to 18. 2016. 25th ranked defense. 2017. 27th ranked defense. 2018. 29th ranked defense. That kind of sounds like he might be bad at coaching defense because everywhere he goes, they suck. Floor's yours, guys. I'm done.
I got to say, though, those pages are really short because you only got to like 80-something and you were on the third page. So those are really short.
It's like 25-ish a page. 25-ish.
I'm just saying, seems like really short pages. But, yeah, I'm smelling what you're stepping in. I guess, I wanted to, Rogan, you could probably figure this one out for me. What kind of scheme did? Oh, he coached underneath of Mike Pettin. He was with Mike Pettin there in 2014.
We know how Mike Pettin turned out, so that's great.
Well, one of the biggest things that people had to say against Jim Leonhard was that Jim Leonhard learned from Mike Pettin. So they were worried about Jim Leonhard coming in because he would have the same defensive scheme. But now I'm looking at 2 seasons with the Cleveland Browns followed under Coach Mike Pettin in 20. So what I'm getting out of this is Matt LaFleur has this real thing to him where he likes to keep the same philosophy in this organization. Joel Barry, he talked about Brandon Staley. Staley was in with it. And then you had a guy like Mike Pettin before that. And now you have a guy who coached under Mike Pettin. This is interesting. I'm still, honestly, I'm still trying to process the move by the Green Bay Packers, so I'm not really sure. Rogan's figuring out my schemes for me, but I'm going to go to Austin. Rogan, he's blowing a gasket over there. Austin, what are your thoughts on the recent hiring of Jeff Hafley to this Green Bay Packers team?
Yeah, thoughts are not good on this end of the podcast. You look at Jeff Hafley, and he coached at Boston College, like you said. And even as a head coach, he wasn't good as a head coach. for Boston College, they play in the ACC, so they got somewhat decent competition, but nothing like you see in the. I don't think the ACC is nearly as good as the Big Ten or SEC, just besides Clemson maybe. So Boston College, they went 6-5, 6-6, 3-9, and 7-6 as him as a head coach. Overall, 22-6. Usually, if you're going from college to college to NFL head coaching, you got to be almost like Jim Harbaugh there. But when going to DC there, I mean, I guess you were looking at Jim Leonard, when you were looking at Jim Leonard, his defense at Wisconsin was ranked top 10 in the nation almost every single time, it seemed like. This guy ranked 80-something? Like, come on, Packers. There had to have been better candidates out there than this guy. Like, get off of Mike Pettin, all right? We saw how Mike Pettin was at Cleveland. We saw how he was, and that's why he's not even a coach for the Packers anymore, because he was bad. So why do you go back? You know, Trage, there's a saying, learn from the past or learn from the history so you don't repeat itself. You know, that's what our founding fathers did in this country. You know, founding fathers didn't want to get taxed, so we fought for our freedom, and we're like, oh, we're not going to tax as much. Well, I guess we see how that's happening. I guess we're getting taxed all the time now, but that was the original thought, is get away from Great Britain. Matt LaFleur is not learning from the past. He just seems like he's I don't know. Maybe this guy does have a different scheme than Mike Pettin, but if he's underneath the coaching tree, it's got to be somewhat the same. And you look at college, he probably went to college. He's like, oh, maybe this scheme will work in college. Sorry, buddy, it didn't. It didn't work in college. So that's kind of funny. And this guy's just not a winner. He's not a winner. He's 22-6 overall as a head coach. He won one bowl game, and it was at Fenway Park. It was I don't even know what bowl it is. Like, there had to have been other options out there. Maybe, like you and I were talking, trade, Zach Orr, the linebackers coach from Ravens. Like, it makes you think, because you know what? There's that rule that you have to interview one person of a minority, whether it's a person of color or anything like that. It seems like they said that they were going to interview Zach Orr just to fill in that void. But honestly, I thought Zach Orr was a really good coach. I mean, you look at the Ravens linebackers this year with Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, how hard they were hitting. And usually linebackers coach is pretty into the scheme of the defense. But no, instead we go with Jeff Hafley, who none of us have ever heard of. And I just feel like it's just going to be the same thing again this year that we've been seeing since who knows how long. I just don't understand. I don't understand it.
It definitely is an interesting move by the Packers. And you guys did all the blowing up, so I don't have to blow up now. You guys did it for me. I don't have to. When I look at the move by the Packers, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. What I'm trying to, I guess, let's think of it on the flip side. What are the Packers trying to get out of this? They look at a guy who was a defensive backs coach with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Browns, and the 49ers. We know that the Packers want to have a strong secondary. Maybe they bring in more of a defense. We talked about it, why they would want to hire a cornerbacks coach in the NFL into that spot. And that was what crossed our mind. They want to have a guy who can come in and coach up the DBs, run things that involve the DBs, because they want playmakers in that defensive back room. So maybe that led into it. I'm trying to make sense of it here. Looking at him as a whole, yes, Boston College was not fantastic. He did qualify for 3 bowl games in his seasons with Boston College. Not overly great records, but Boston College ain't much of a football school either, so that doesn't help out his case there, especially with Boston College being as struggling as they are. And I know in one of his seasons he had a decent defense. I don't know what year it was, but I know he had a decent defense with Boston College. It truthfully doesn't make sense. I know the Seahawks hired the defensive coordinator from the Baltimore Ravens as their head coach. So I believe, the linebackers coach that we talked about or there and their cornerbacks coach, you don't know, John Harbaugh might be telling one of those two, hey, you're going to get moved up to our D coordinator spot now. And the other guy, hey, you're going to get a promotion too. We want to keep you guys both in-house. We don't know what happened there. So maybe, the room's starting to clear itself out, but there's a lot of interesting names still available there, especially looking at defensive minds. I mean, Vrabel, out of all guys, Mike Vrabel is still available. He isn't being interviewed for a head coaching job right now that we know of. The Washington Commanders are not looking at Vrabel. So it's definitely interesting with the amount of big names or good names that are still available in the defensive coordinator room that they took a shot on a guy from Boston College. Especially, we just went through the talk if the Packers were Super Bowl or bust next season. And we're taking a shot on a guy from Boston College with an unproven record. In all reality, unproven all the way around. Hasn't really, outside of Zay Flowers, not many guys coming out of Boston College going to the NFL. So who knows about his development of players either? How can you trust this guy bringing in rookies into your defense to be able to develop them up to being at the standard that you want them at on your defensive side? We saw it with Darnell Savage, Austin's favorite guy. He came into this Packers team as a rookie and was a hard-hitting, just tough-nosed football player. And look what Joel Berry and this defense did to Darnell Savage in just a few years. Darnell Savage went from a hard hitter who I thought potentially had the ability to be one of the better safeties in the league when he first came in, looking at his stats in his rookie season. And then after that, I know he's had injuries, but this guy isn't the same player as what came in. And that has a lot to do with development of players in that defensive room. That has a lot to do with the coaching staff in Green Bay and the schemes that they run to put them in positions to really benefit them. What Joel Berry was doing with Savage wasn't benefiting his game. And now, Rogan, did you figure out any schemes that he ran at Boston College? What kind of schemes? If it's a good scheme, maybe the Packers saw that and were like, hey, he runs the scheme that we're looking for?
So he does not run the typical defense we've seen the Packers run the last couple of years. He likes to run more 4-3 and 4-2-5 compared to the Packers for the last how many years under Berry have run more of that 3-4 defense. So that is going to be different. Like that's something that's going to be different for the Packers. And especially with that, when you're going to start running these 4-3s and 4-2-5s, like defenses, that puts a lot of pressure on, especially the Packers drafting and signing really good linebackers, having a deep linebacker group and cornerbacks, because you're going to have three linebackers on the field at all times now, compared to technically in the 3-4 you have four, but you have Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith up on the line, so it's really like a 5-2, but it's technically a 3-4. So, and those guys are not like, I would consider them more like ends. Those guys aren't linebackers. They can't cover in the open field. Like you're going to need athletic linebackers now. So maybe they saw, like, with our talented linebacker group the Packers have, like maybe utilize more of a defense that utilizes the linebacker position, and with hopefully some of these cornerbacks taking a step up. But I think the big one that we're going to need to get better at is safety, because those are going to be very important in this defense, especially safeties that can make plays in the run game. So I wouldn't doubt seeing them go cornerback, linebacker, and safety a lot in this draft.
And if there's a guy who has to get cut from the Green Bay Packer team now, it's Devondre Campbell. Just talking with the scheme that you just said, Devondre Campbell's not good in pass coverage. He is not good in the pass coverage. So Devondre Campbell's an odd man out in this defensive scheme. When you bring in a guy with a new defensive philosophy, like I just said there's going to be odd pieces that the Packers may have to part with. Like you said, Preston Smith's more of an end. If they don't see him as an end and they want to get somebody else in there, Preston Smith's another guy who might be on his way out. It's definitely interesting. It's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see what he runs for a scheme. Maybe with more talent, Maybe his schemes were fine at Boston College. I can't say I've watched a lot of Boston College football. Maybe what he was drawing up was fine. He just didn't have the playmakers for it. Getting into an NFL team, maybe he has the mind for it, right? Maybe at the end of the day, his mind is there, but he was coaching at Boston College. Now, that seems kind of baffling because if you have the mind, why are you at Boston College? You would have thought Nick Saban would have gave him a phone call, or Kirby Smart would have gave him a phone call and said, hey, come down here and win a national championship with us, or win, that kind of thing. So I don't know. It's interesting. It really is interesting. I want to hear, I really do. We haven't heard him yet. I want to hear Brian Gutekunst talk, and I want to hear Matt LaFleur talk. I have to hear both of them talk and give me a down-to-earth explanation of why this move right now, especially with the amount of guys who are still out there hunting for a job right now, who are still looking for a new landing spot. And we go with a guy out of Boston College who, we picked from Boston College. It's not like he was in the open job market. He was the head coach of Boston College. He was still there under contract. So coming to the NFL now, the Packers went out for him. They didn't just, it wasn't one of those things where he was a free agent coach out there right now. This was a guy who was with Boston College already. So it was interesting that he was even a thought for the Green Bay Packers. So I want to hear those two guys talk. But Rogan, what do you got?
One thing I will say, Trage, with you saying that if he's a great defensive mind, why was he at Boston College? He did tell multiple people that he was close to in the media business that he wanted to get back to just coaching football, and he hated the direction that college football is going with the NIL and stuff. So I got to kind of defend him there. Like maybe he just wasn't taking bigger jobs, and bigger jobs weren't looking at him in college football because maybe he's not the type of guy that's really going to go out and get players like a Georgia needs. Like Georgia needs a defensive coordinator that's good at going out and talking to these players and getting them to come play for Georgia. And it seems like through what I've been reading about him that he wanted to move to the NFL to get back to just coaching football because he didn't like the landscape of college. So hopefully that's it. And hopefully maybe his teams kind of suffered a little bit and weren't the best at Boston College just because of the fact he didn't like the way college football was going and not because maybe he wasn't a great coach. Like that's something we can maybe hang our hat on. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And LaFleur, I think, is kind of on a hot seat now because you can't have 3 defensive coordinators in 5 years not pan out. So this is going to be a big year for LaFleur.
I agree with you there. And, honestly, hearing him say that, I kind of like him now. I kind of like his mindset there. I get it, what he's saying there. We see it a lot with a lot of coaches. We said it right away when Nick Saban retired from college football. It seems so sudden, but I don't think Nick Saban saw college football the same as what it was. It changed. The whole landscape has changed to now you're not just coaching football. You're basically running an NFL team inside of a college football game. Like you're making contracts. You're trying to get guys with NIL money. You're doing this, you're doing that. You're constantly working, and you have to worry about guys in the transfer portal before you're even done with this season. You have to worry about your guys transferring out. You have to worry about picking up guys in the transfer portal. It's a mess. So I agree with him there. And, like you said, maybe we can hang our hat on that situation. We know Boston College isn't big into football. Maybe that's why they struggled too. End of the day, maybe that's why they struggled too if you look at the records that Boston College has had. So definitely interesting there. Austin, what do you got on your end there?
Yeah, the last time the Packers had a defensive back coach be their defensive coordinator was Don Capers, and that was back in from 2009 to 2017, and we did win the championship that year. So I think that is a positive, but also Don Capers had a lot of coaching experience way before then and even was a head coach for a couple of teams. So I think that's kind of the difference that we see from someone who can stick with the Packers for 8 years to someone who's kind of just new right out of college here in Heffley. So, but it shows that our defenses have been predominantly pretty good when we had that defensive backs coach as our defensive coordinator. But it will definitely be interesting. And hopefully we don't go over 3 here on the defensive coordinator because like you guys were saying, it would look really bad on Matt LaFleur's part.
Maybe the Packers are trying to get with this young kind of movement that the NFL has going on. You look at guys like Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins in his mind. Maybe they're trying to get into this. Like, that's the way the NFL's been trending, kind of weaning out the old guys and getting into this new league football. Maybe that's the direction they're heading with this. He's only 44 years old. It's not like he's old at all. I mean, he's a younger guy. Maybe they think he can click better with younger players. I don't know. I really don't know. Anything else from you guys to add on that topic there with Jeff Hafley? Nothing across the board there. Okay. So with that, I want to move on here, get into our Wisconsin sports question of the day. Rogan was gone yesterday, so we got to get to Rogan first. Rogan, what do you got for your Wisconsin sports question of the day?
My Wisconsin sports question of the day is obviously we got the trade deadline coming up, and do you think there's a possibility that the Bucks would be willing to move on from Chris Middleton in any sort of deal? That is my sports question of the day.
I think it depends on what you can get back. I really do. I don't think they could just move on from Chris. I think that would add a lot of turmoil in the locker room, especially with Giannis. Simply because Giannis and Chris have come up together, it could be a struggle getting a guy like Chris to move on and not affect Giannis. So I don't know. That would definitely be interesting. It would depend on the package too. How much can you get for Chris Middleton? You know, you're gonna be asking a lot. I think you could get a decent package in return. Maybe some rookies that you can develop if the Bucks are leaning towards that. But I think right now where the Bucks are sitting, they're kind of in a win now mode. They just brought in Doc Rivers. It seems like they're in a win now mode. So I feel like moving on from Chris at this point would be a letdown to the Bucks and to a lot of fans out there who believe that the Bucks still have a shot here in postseason.
Yeah, that would definitely be an interesting one there. But like you were saying, Trage, there's a lot of chemistry going on, and we also did just fire our past head coach there. So I don't really know how invested the Bucks would be in really kind of pursuing a trade. But the free agency market hopefully is still there or something. I don't know. We still need someone to fix Beasley because he's definitely taken a turn for the worse in our starting lineup. My sports question of the day is I was watching hockey last night, and obviously Wisconsin doesn't really have a hockey team, like a professional team. We got our college teams. We got women's Badgers and men's who are really, really good. But we don't have a professional team now. We got Milwaukee Admirals, but no one ever goes to those games. Would we ever see an NHL expansion team in the state of Wisconsin? Especially with how good our teams are in Madison, I feel like it'd get quite a bit of investment in these NHL teams in Wisconsin, or in this NHL team in Wisconsin.
I think Wisconsin is one of the most interesting places that doesn't have an NHL team. You know, when you think of hockey, you think of cold weather. When you think of cold weather places, you shoot towards the north. You think of the Midwest. You think of Wisconsin. That's one of the big states for cold weather for hockey. You would really think Wisconsin would be involved more. I mean, we have the Milwaukee Admirals. We know the Admirals are out there. Semi-pro hockey, I believe the Admirals are. Rogan, you
Something
might know.
like that.
Are the Admirals semi-pro? I think so.
Yeah.
I think they're like semi-pro or something. I'm shaky on it. I don't watch a lot of hockey. But, I mean, so I think Wisconsin, like you said, could definitely benefit from a NHL team. I don't think it would be a bad move by the state. Where they would locate it, I don't know. Madison, Milwaukee, Green Bay. I mean, there's a lot of different areas that could have hockey and a lot of fans would turn up. So, I mean, definitely would be interesting there. Rogan's more into the hockey. So, Rogan, what do you think?
Yeah, I just got to say, Austin, when you started that off by saying Wisconsin doesn't have a hockey team, I almost lost it because I haven't been able to talk about them yet, but I'm a big, big Badger hockey fan, and
we're getting into that later. We'll have to dive into them
sometime here soon. But Yeah, I don't know. I think, especially like you were saying, with the success that the men's and women's teams have had in Wisconsin, it's kind of weird because Wisconsin's really dominated college hockey now for the last probably 10 years. It's really weird that we don't have NHL team, but the NHL is kind of a dying sport. So I don't know if, like, especially with like just state government and stuff, like if they'd be willing to pass, because it's going to cost a lot of money to bring an NHL team here for a sport that's kind of slowly dying off. So we'll have to see.
Well, what I thought was weird is I was watching the San Jose Sharks versus Seattle Kraken. Seattle Kraken, obviously a really new team. I like the Kraken, low key. They got some fun colors there. The Kraken, think about that. But San Jose Sharks, they've been around for I feel like a while, but there's so many teams. Okay, there's 2 teams in Florida. There's like 2 teams in California. Why I don't get how people in warm weather states like hockey, especially San Jose. San Jose Sharks. That's the only professional team in San Jose, and it's just odd that there's a hockey team there. But I think I looked it up, and they're worth like $1.9 billion or something stupid, which is actually kind of crazy for being in San Jose. But it just fathoms me that Wisconsin doesn't even have a team. You also look at states like the Dakotas, North Dakota, South Dakota, with how good their teams are over there. And they kind of rely on having to cheer for the Minnesota Wild or for teams out west. But it was just a little crazy because, like Rogan was saying, I was saying, Wisconsin is really good at hockey, or college teams are, and we don't even have a professional team.
I don't know if the Dakotas would have the public funding to have a hockey team. I don't know about that one. Not
North
a professional
Dakota,
one at the
North
moment.
Dakota hockey goes crazy.
Well, this is true. College hockey, yes. I'm saying like NHL putting money towards it kind of deal. I don't know if they'd have the public funding for that one. I really don't know about that. But I got my question of the day. This is a 2. You get 2. You get 2 choices in this one. If you could change the outcome of any Wisconsin sports team season, what would it be? So, whatever season for you, it could be the Packers that ending in a heartbreak. It could be the Brewers. It could be the Badgers. Rogan, give me your 2 Wisconsin sports seasons that you wish you could change the outcome to and have it so they would have went further or whatever it is.
So I get two of them?
2 choices. I tried to limit to 1, but I couldn't even come up with just 1. Yes, so I had to go 2.
First one I'm going to pick is, you're going to have to help me with the year trade, but was it the 2018 Brewers that played the Dodgers?
Yep, 2018
That would be the first
Brewers.
one I would choose. And simply because of how hard it is for a small market team to win in the MLB, that's the only reason I'd choose that one. It's not my favorite sport, but that run by the Brewers and that team that they had was something that we literally could possibly never see as a Brewers fan again in our lifetimes, which is how it would have been like when the Cubs won the World Series, how big of a deal that was. That's what it would have been for the city of Milwaukee. So even if they would have made the World Series, like that would have been an absolute incredible feat. And I think for my second one, I think I want to take the 2014 Packers Seahawks game, but I think I'm going to take the Frank the Tank Badgers finishing off and winning that national championship.
Oh, you took mine.
Just because of how magical that run was and the teams they beat to get to that point, and then in the end not to cap it off and finish the job. Because that run, think about it, you beat a great Arizona team. You beat an undefeated Kentucky team after losing to them the year before. Like that was a movie-written script of a run by the Badgers, and then just to come up a little bit short in the championship game. So I'd have to take the 2018 Brewers and then the 2015 Badgers.
2015, yep. And, going off of that, I'm going to take, because I had the same one, 2015 Badgers National Championship. And everybody in America, including Duke fans, knows that ball went off Winslow's finger. We all saw it. We all saw his finger bend over backwards. My mom, she's a Duke fan. She likes the Badgers, but she's a Duke fan. So that national championship, it was a house divided that night. She was for Duke. She even point blank told me that ball went off Winslow's fingers. She knew it. She knew it did. So, I mean, that was heartbreak right there, definitely, with the Badgers. My second one, I had the 2018 Brewers, but I think I'm going to double down with the Badgers. I'm going to go back-to-back years. 2014 Final Four. They had what's his name? The Harrison brother, Andrew Harrison or Aaron Harrison, whoever it was, hit that jump shot against the Badgers, and then Trayvon Jackson came down and it rimmed around and out, and he wasn't able to win it for the Badgers. That year, I believe it was Kentucky and UConn that made the national championship that year. And I believe Wisconsin could have won the national championship that year also. So back-to-back years. The Badgers haven't won a national title since 1945. So back-to-back years with a shot. And, I mean, both times having one shot or one little fingertip kill us. That's just 2014 and 2015 Badgers March Madness runs are going to have to be mine because both of them potentially should have ended in a national title. So Austin, if you could change the outcome of any Wisconsin sports team season, which one would you choose? You got two of them. What do you got?
We're back. My computer was having connection issues, but that's my problem. I was torn between the Packers here because there are so many years.
It's like every year, pick one.
So I'm gonna just pick a. Can I just pick a combination of Packers? Since you guys chose none of the Packers, you guys chose none of. I still got another sport, but you guys chose none of the Packers, so I can go. 2020 Packers when they lost to Tampa Bay in the NFC Championship. 2019 Packers when they lost the NFC Championship to the 49ers. 2021 Packers divisional round against the 49ers. 2016 championship NFC Championship lost to Atlanta Falcons. And then let's just 2014 when they lost in the NFC Championship to the Seattle Seahawks. So that's five years right there that kind of demoralized me every single year after we lost in the NFC Championship. And then my next one, I think it is the 2008 Brewers team. Kind of a legendary team there, kind of what kick-started everything. That's the year that they beat the Arizona Diamondbacks in that wild card walk-off Nyjer Morgan. We ended up losing the next series to the Philadelphia Phillies, who ended up winning the World Series. But that's kind of like my first year of actually remembering the Brewers because I was only like 5 years old way back then. So that was my first time actually remembering the Brewers. And that would have been awesome to see them kind of go a little bit farther than just that year. But you guys had some pretty good picks there. That Frank the Tank one that year. Oh man, that one's a sting in the heart. And the 2018 Brewers because I actually went to one of them games that they lost to the Dodgers in the NLCS championship there. So definitely a lot. Hey, let's just say Wisconsin fans have been through a lot.
Perfect. Is Austin's having some computer troubles on the back end of this right
it's
now.
Not good, Trey.
It's cutting in. It's not good, but we're gonna make her through. Don't you worry, buddy. So with that, we're gonna move on here. I just want to talk about one of our sponsors, Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply to help your team get the sweetest gear. Find them on Facebook at Game Day Supply or online at GameDaySupply.net. Austin, do I have you?
I'm here, Trage.
Fantastic. So we're going to get over to Austin here. He's going to give us his fact of the day.
On this day in 1950, the Green Bay Packers founder, player, and coach Curly Lambeau resigns after 31 seasons and 6 NFL titles to his credit.
Did you say Curly Lambeau?
I did say Curly Lambeau.
Okay, perfect. That's what I thought you said.
I saw. What do you think I said?
Connection issues on the back end here, so it's cutting in and out. It's cutting in and out, but fantastic fact of the day right there by Austin. Thank you again, Austin. He is the master of the fact of the day. Nobody can take that job title from him.
Master.
He's the man.
Master factor.
He's the master. He's the master factor on that.
Not the master of internet connection, but
he's far from the master of internet connection. Trust me, it's cutting in and out so bad.
You can only pay for so much these days.
So if Austin's roommate would get off a Fortnite, we would be fine. But so moving on here, we got to get into a big game coming up tonight here for the Badgers. Number 6 Wisconsin will be traveling to Nebraska. They'll be taking on the Cornhuskers there. 16-4 are the Badgers coming into this one, taking on the 15-6 Nebraska Cornhuskers. We're gonna hope Austin's he stays connected through this here. Austin, who are we seeing for some key guys in this game for Nebraska?
Yeah, looking at Nebraska, they got Tomaninga there, who averages only 13.6 points per game. He's a team leader, but when we saw him against the Badgers the first time, he lit it up from the 3-point line. And so he's definitely there from the 3-point line, 37.2% from the 3-point line. So very good 3-point shooter there. Ryan Mask, also a really good player, 13.2 points per game. Also 8.4 rebounds per game and 3.1 steal or assists per game. So really good player in him. I'm pretty sure he had a pretty good game against the last time the Badgers played him there. And then Bryce Williams, just to round it out, averages 13.1 points per game and 5.4 rebounds per game, along with 0.7 blocks per game. So pretty decent guard out of Bryce Williams. But, I mean, they're a pretty good team. Pretty sure the last time we played them, we kind of blew them out. And it was a little bit unexpected there. We beat them 88-72, but it was much more larger than that. I'm pretty sure they came back towards the end there. And Tomaninga had 17 points. But we've seen him be able to score a lot more against Indiana. The game before that, he had 28. He hasn't really done a whole lot since that game, though. He scored 19 against Purdue, but since then, it's kind of been a mixture of guys. So I don't really know if he's totally available, and it doesn't say. So it'll be interesting to see if he's even there. I assume he is, but Ryan Mask had 34 points against Ohio State not too long ago. So a really good forward for them there. And it'll definitely be more of a challenge now that it is in Nebraska and not in Wisconsin. It'll be interesting to see how the Badgers do on the road.
Yeah, you look at the big difference there. Last time they beat Nebraska by 16 at home. That's the big difference in these two matchups. You're now going on the road. They scored 51 points in that first half against Nebraska first time out. I don't expect them to be able to drop 51 again in the first half, especially traveling to Nebraska for this one. So definitely going to be a good game right there. Looking at it, I'm seeing two guys in Crowell and Wall that have to cook in this game. Nebraska has some built guys. They have some stronger guys in the post, but they don't have the height. Wisconsin has the height advantage in this game, and they have to utilize that. Go into the paint, use the paint, and then work through your other guys. Work through your guys like Storr then work through your guy like Chucky, Klesmit, Essien, whoever's in there. But they have to dominate the post first. I think that's where they have to go first in this one, and then work your way out of there. Looking at Nebraska, I mean, your guys to control, like you said, Tomaninga. He's the main guy you have to control if you are Wisconsin. Looking at him on the season right now, he's their shooter. He's their guy. He's like the Steph Curry of college basketball at times. He's pulling up from everywhere. He's cannon from everywhere. He's ridiculous at times watching him shoot. So Tomaninga, definitely a guy the Badgers are going to have to control. So it's going to be a lot on what can Max Klesmit and Chucky Hepburn do in the defensive game against him to slow him down. Last time out against the Badgers, he had 17 points. I mean, nothing to shake your head at. 3 for 6 from downtown, 7 of 10 from the floor. He shot it well in that game, but they limited his shots. I think that's what the Badgers have to do again. You can't completely shut this guy down. I mean, if he has a cold night, you can shut him down, but otherwise he's going to find a shot. That's what he does. He's a shot creator. He's a very good shot creator, and he's not afraid to shoot over top of a guy. So the Badgers have to slow him down. I don't think you're going to be able to shut him down completely. I think you have to slow him down. Also, another guy I'm watching is C.J. Wilcher from Nebraska, another good three-point shooter. Comes off the bench mainly for Nebraska, but he's a very good three-point shooter, and the Badgers have to keep their eye on him coming off the bench there. It's going to be interesting to see how the guards match up in this game. I really do expect the Badgers to be able to match up well with this Nebraska team, especially in the post. You got to out-rebound Nebraska in this game. You have to be more aggressive than this Nebraska team. Come out hot, stay hot, and win the game like that. That's how the Badgers have to play in this one. I think they should be able to win this game on the road. It's tough to play on the road in the Big Ten, but this should be a game the Badgers can win. They just have to play their game and don't go away from that game there at Nebraska. So, Rogan, what are you seeing? Some of your keys for the Badgers in this game against Nebraska?
Yeah, Trey, the big thing I worry about is a letdown game for the Badgers, kind of looking ahead to that big one this Sunday against Purdue. And it's a tough game. We struggle in Nebraska. We always have. We always will. And they're not a bad team. They're 15-6 on the season. So for this game kind of worries me with the Purdue game coming. I think Guard will keep them focused on the next game ahead, but it does worry me that they're going to look ahead to that game and neglect a 15-6 basketball team that they're going to be playing at their place here come tonight. So the Badgers got to be careful with this one. This one worries me. And like you said, we got to dominate down low for sure. And I'd like to see a little more even score in this game. Obviously, Storr's coming off that huge game, which is great to see. But you want all your guys going when you start getting towards the end of the season. So I want to see a big game from Klesman again. Hepburn. I like to see him get going so that he gets a little more confidence in himself. And I don't know, because I feel like he's the one guy on this team that can really create his own shot. And when you start playing these elite teams that can really guard, you need a guy like that to kind of give the ball to late in the game. So I'd like to see him get himself going and, yeah, just keep winning for the Badgers. But you definitely can't overlook this Nebraska team.
No, definitely a team you can't overlook. They have some talent on this roster across the board. Like we talked, Rank Mast, Tommy Ninga, even off the bench there. Hoiberg has been putting up some big minutes for this Nebraska team on the year. So has Wilcher. This is a good team in Nebraska. You can't take them lightly, and especially on the road going to Nebraska. That makes it even tougher for the Badgers. Like you said, don't make it a trap game. Go into Nebraska. You know, everybody in the country right now thinks the Badgers are one of the top teams out there. You know that you're a top team. Go into Nebraska, take care of your business, move on. That's what the Badgers need to do in this one. You know, Nebraska's a good team. Wisconsin right now playing like a great team. And you have to show them there in Nebraska what you are. I mean, this is a big test. Like we talk about, you know, with any conference. Going on the road. The toughest places to play. Going to, say, like Purdue, Mackey Arena. Going to College Park. Going to, I can't remember what Rutgers Rutgers Stadium's called.
I don't know what it is, but it's tough, Trage.
It is tough. It is definitely tough. I can't remember what the heck it's called now. But anyways, playing at some of these different campuses, everything like that, they get tough. But when you get into March, when you get into that March Madness game, it's on a neutral court. I'll give it to you. But some of those atmospheres are impossible to play in. You get some of these games where, say, the Badgers are in the West. They got to go to the West. Your top-seeded teams in there like Arizona. Majority of fans that are going to be Arizona, it's going to turn into a home game. You got to be able to play through the adversity and the noise, and that's what I think really shows when you can travel to a place like Nebraska and pull off a big win. So I think the Badgers will be tested in this game, but I really think they can pull it out. You know, for me, I got to see big games from Steven Crowell in this one, and I got to see a big game from, I'm going to say, Connor Essegian. Kamari McGee's out for a couple weeks now. Essegian's playing time is going to go up a little bit. I got to see big games. And, you know, when I say Essegian, a big game for me is like 7 points and good on the defensive end. That's a good game for me out of Essegian right now, especially with the minutes he's playing. Now, if he plays more than that, I'm hoping for more buckets out of him. But I think he's just got to play a good role coming off the bench there. And then Steven Crowell in that starting rotation there. I mean, Crowell's going to have the size advantage. He's played some pretty good games against Nebraska in the past. Last time out, only 9 points. I got to see a better game out of Steven Crowell here the second time around. So, Austin, who are you looking out for the Badgers in this one? Who's got to have a big game for the Badgers to pull this win off?
Yeah, the last time these two teams played, Tyler Wall and Chucky Hepburn were their top two scorers. Hepburn actually had 13 points here. We had a lot of help off the bench. Sejan did score 12 and Blackwell scored 12 points. But I think it's going to be Tyler Wall again and Max Klesmit. Max Klesmit that time when they played only had 3 points, and they still were managed to score 88 points as a team. So I think Tyler Wall is going to continue to have another big game here, but also Max Klesmit will be back, kind of like how he's been playing these past few games.
Definitely agree with you there on Wall and Klesmit there. Last time out, Klesmit only 2 shots in total against Nebraska. So definitely interesting. Was very hesitant to shoot last time out. But Rogan, who do you got? Who's got to have a big game for the Badgers to pull this one out against Nebraska?
Yeah, like you were saying, I think our big guys, Crowell and Wall, definitely have to have big games, especially with lack of size that Nebraska has down low. So those are my two guys that have to have big ones for the Badgers.
I completely agree with you there, 100%. So Badgers in action coming up here tonight, taking on Nebraska. A big game before the Badgers will take on Purdue this upcoming weekend there at the Kohl Center on Sunday. So with that, I want to move on here, get into our sports story of the day. So I'm going to go to Rogan first. Rogan was gone yesterday, so he's got to have a lot of stories to tell us. What is your sports story of the day?
My sports story is the NBA moving the draft to 2 nights. Not sure about that. Everybody tunes in for about the first 3 picks and then doesn't watch the rest of it. So not exactly – it's not like the NFL draft where everyone's watching every pick. Nobody watches the NBA draft, so not sure why they moved it to 2 nights.
I honestly can't say I've ever watched the NBA draft. I can't say it. Maybe the only time I watched was to see Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker. That was it. I wanted to see where those two would get drafted. I think that was the only time I ever watched the draft. So definitely interesting. They moved it to a 2-night event. I don't think it's going to get any better viewership now that it's 2 nights. I agree with that. I don't think it's going to get any better. So Austin, sports story of the day. What do you got for me?
I'm not gonna lie, Rogan took the one I was gonna say. So I did find something real quick though. The NBA, there's a lot of stars that are serious about joining the U.S. men's Olympic team for Paris in the Olympics there. I feel like the past few years that we've gone to the Olympics, there's kind of like LeBron James hasn't been there. There's been a lot of stars that haven't really gone there. But this year, it seems like there's a lot of interest, and it's looking like Steve Kerr is going to be probably the coach for this Olympic team. So that could also draw a lot of stars towards this team. But I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago when they went to – I can't remember where the Olympics were 2 years ago, but they lost to Nigeria in an exhibition round. So that was a pretty big loss that the USA team took, even though it was exhibition. I know a lot of fans were still shocked, and that could have been due to NBA stars not really wanting to play in the Olympics, but maybe because it's in Paris, such a high valued country and everything, I can see why the NBA stars kind of want to play there for that.
I can see that 100%. It definitely is drawing a lot more interest, more than it has in the past, so definitely interesting there. One more topic to get into before we end for the day. I promised Rogan 2 days ago. He was gone yesterday, so we're going to get into it today. Wisconsin men's and women's hockey have been hot as of late right now. Looking at the men's team, they're 20-5-1 on the season right now. They are 11-3 in conference play. They've won 1 in a row. And, I mean, this team has been rolling basically all season long. Looking at the women's team, they're 22-4. They're 16-4 in conference play. They've won 9 in a row. as of late. So both these teams have been rolling. Rogan, it's your time. This is your time. Tell me what you've liked about the men's and women's hockey at UW-Madison.
I tell you right now, Trage, we're the best. We're the best in the land. It doesn't matter who. I'm taking men's and women's championship. We're winning it both. Let's go. Roll badge.
That's all he's got? You wanted me to dig into this, and that's all you got for me right now?
You can't really talk. You know, the room he's in, there's tutors coming in, and there's people to learn in the room that he's in, I guess. So it had to been short one this one time, Trage. I mean, I could talk about it, but I'm not the hockey guy, so I won't talk about it.
What? It's okay. It's okay. We'll get into it tomorrow. So, nothing else across the board then? We're good for the day? Everything Wisconsin? Good?
Yeah, not too bad one today, but hey, it's almost Friday, Trage, so we're getting ready for a big weekend.
Tomorrow we're back. We're talking about a big weekend in Wisconsin sports. We're going to cover it all. We're going to get into a lot tomorrow. There's probably more Brewer talk. We're going to hear from Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst soon, so we'll be listening in for them. Also, we're going to look around the landscape and see what's going on. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow. But until then, deuces.